Brian,
No Cass?
Is Cass getting cookies?
hopefully you're not going to do anything that's
Don't get us
controversial.
in trouble?
No, sir. I'll keep it brief.
Okay.
No controversy here. Just information.
A lot of square footage.
Waiting on you.
We're having a meeting. Sit down. Been in the cookies again, dang it.
Sheriff was trying to take my cookie.
Okay, Brian,
Camera.
All right.
you're on.
Chairman Carlson, Commissioners, I just prepared, this was my 5th budget year that I was able to actually go back and provide you with some meaningful information over a 5-year snapshot of where facilities, how facilities has been spending its money since FY16, I believe. And so what I did is your top sheet there is just your building counts, your square footage, either by department or by something very similar, and then I put the grand totals at the end. And so that's enlightening. It's not a number that even I knew off the top of my head till I put all this stuff together. So that's for you. I'll also be posting these stuff on my little website, or the Eddy County Facilities webpage, after you guys have reviewed it. The rest of the information has to do with money, going back to FY16 up to current, as current as possible. So I just picked a date and stuck it in Encode, and it spit out all the information. And so I tried to cluster it, one by buildings, by utilities, by operations. And when I say operations, that's widgets, that's things that we buy with a credit card or a purchase order. And then separated even those from operations over to more project type stuff where we're doing air conditioners and roof replacements and things of that nature. And then provided those totals. And then when you scroll down all the way to the last page, you'll see the grand total. That's where I add in the department costs, the staff costs for my department, which are significant, anywhere between 1.1 and 1.2 million a year. And so that's a lot to be responsible for. You'll see a grand total there close to 15 million over 5 years. And so, and that's really not everything. You'll notice as you go through these sheets, the public works facilities themselves, even though we do maintain them when they come up with issues that they can't resolve in-house, I don't have GL codes for those buildings. They pay their own utilities. They do different things, and it was like that when I got here, and it's still like that. So you'll see those two important facilities aren't included on my big list here, but these are the buildings that we're in every day, making sure they're open for the public, even for virus time and stuff like that. So I'll stand for any questions you may have on these items. Oh, let me explain some highlights here. Okay. So, for example, if you go on the back of your second page, you got the admin, and I have a TAN, 168,000, almost 169. It's misleading, and that's just how we gather. That's my work order system. That's my PITA box that I have all my floor plans on, that we have different things. And then also when we picked up the custodian supervisor a couple fiscal years ago, we pulled back all the P cards from all the department, or from all the employees, and pretty much started purchasing all those things through one. Well, it's inefficient to go buy, those 2 widgets for that one building for that one thing. So he just gathers a list, and we standardized our toilet papers and our paper towels, and we did all this stuff. And so we just buy in bulk, we keep it on the shelf, and we get it distributed. And so we really don't account for those items specifically to those buildings, only on an as-needed basis between the custodian and their supervisor. If it was in red, that was just a project that I really disagreed with that I was made to do. The blue one right there for the clerk's office, for example, that was one that I actually had budgeted for next fiscal year, but then we fell into a sort of financial crisis and started having to make some deals. And so I was able to have some savings from roofing and HVAC projects from the courthouse this year. And I just started applying those savings everywhere that it would help us the most. And usually that's in air conditioning. And so We spent a lot of money on that, on those air conditioners, replaced all 4. And then the other big 20-ton unit at the Fairground Community Center is going to be replaced. Should we get to use that facility like we're supposed to for the fair, it's going to be awesome. So they will not be hot in the summertime over there for sure. And that's just about it. So I'll snap for any questions.
Questions?
I don't have any.
Okay. Commissioner McCutcheon,
No, sir. Thank you, Ron. This is very helpful.
Commissioner Woods, Commissioner Henry.
Oh, this is great, thanks.
Okay.
Say it out loud, I was right.
Huh?
I was right.
What were you right about?
Early voting.
No, still people want to go to the old place.
So you got
I'll never.
620,000 square feet of building to take care of?
So,
Is that how that's interpreted?
so this list here, you know, this is what I'm in every day. And when I say me, I mean my team. I mean, most of my time's at my desk, answering calls, double checking stuff and stuff like this. So everything that's here is pretty much every building we're in every day. Now, if you look on that first sheet, you know, building, that's how many buildings are at Atoka number 2. They got 1 building there. At Atoka number 1, there's 2 buildings there. They got 2 metal buildings there. And so, you know, I have hardly any, I don't spend much time at VFDs, let's put it that way, unless specifically requested by the chief. They pretty much handle their business. I think overall they do a decent job. I don't encounter anything there where, when I am asked to go to those buildings, where I see neglect of any kind or much neglect other than normal wear and tear on buildings. Fire services, you know, those towers, I've never gone to those towers other than with the insurance guy to verify that they're there and verify the measurements. And so, you know, there's still several here that we're not in every day, but we do have them. You do have them. And I just wanted to get that all kind of quantified in a way that it's easier for, you know, more or less easy to say, yeah, that's what we have, that's what we're doing. And so should those questions ever come up, or, you know, you have questions on it. And the money stuff, it's mostly accurate, but we're pulling, you know, I'm pulling information from different places, and like I said, it gets to a certain day. So there might have been a bunch of stuff that happened the day after they got hit in code or whatever. I didn't get in here, and so it's just a snapshot of a moment in time, really. 5 years beyond, almost 5 years after you hired me.
Okay.
Alrighty?
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, sir, and just so you know, our FY21 priorities, as far as projects went, very, very limited, and so we're focusing on fire alarm system modernization at the detention center. It's a have-to item. We don't have a choice. The state fire marshal will be visiting us, and so we're going to put our best foot forward in demonstrating that we are investing in getting that thing modernized to a point that it does what it's supposed to do. It never really has. And
How's your staffing?
staffing was good. It was challenging. 2-3 weeks ago, I was literally 6 people down. Had a lot of open spots. We had some retirements. I had a person get injured at home. I have a lady on long-term leave without pay. But we've almost got everybody back. I'm down, so now from being down 6 3 weeks ago, now I'm only down 2, 1 open position, and then the lady that's on long-term leave without pay. And so we'll see what happens when those things come to fruition, but you know, we're doing good. Honestly, COVID helped with the understaffing. The buildings weren't being used like they had always been, and so like fire services being closed helped a lot, because when we were so short-handed, that would have been a real strain, but we were able to still make everyone happy, get everything clean, and do everything. One of the things I didn't notice when we went through all that was, you know, we're watching public health orders, executive orders. The Office of the Courts issue their own orders too, and those are signed and stamped by the Supreme Court Justice, whoever that is. And she handed one down. You know, my staff, I made it voluntary. You want to wear a mask? Wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. We're going to provide it, but I'm not going to make you wear it. Well, they had a directive, you know, signed and stamped by the Supreme Court Justice, and yeah, we had to, by that piece of paper, had to wear a mask in there during business hours. And so, you know, it taught me a lesson I didn't really ever think to go look in there. The sheriff's department brought us to our attention, the court security over there, so very interesting times in your buildings for sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Any other department updates? Okay. Moving on. Travel request consent agenda. Is there any discussion, items we need to highlight? Discussion?
No, sir.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the travel request consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the travel request consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
McCutcheon,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Rocket.
Yes.
Okay. Emergency business. Do we have any emergency business? No emergency business. Moving on. Legislative update. Jerry?
All right.
You brought notes, huh?
I did. As late as I was staying up, I had better have some lunch.
Do we need to order lunch?
No, I'm not going to talk as long as the legislature.
Take another break.
What was that? Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for allowing me to give you a report on the interesting session we just went through. As you all know, the Capitol was closed, which presented a lot of challenges, not only to the legislators, but also to folks like me. I was in Santa Fe, got there Wednesday night, left Sunday morning. There was lots of challenges especially with being able to interact with the legislature. Basically, my day, just to give you how it went, breakfast early with as many legislators as I could gather around and try to go up and talk to. Rest of the day in the room on the computer, trying to follow all the committees that were in session and trying to do a good job of keeping everyone updated on what was going on there. We had a lot of different problems with webcasting, seemed to happen the first couple of days, or first day mainly, with things going off and on, and it happened all through the session. The committee meetings were people were allowed, the public allowed to participate through Zoom meetings, and that was also presenting a challenge. First day, they had some crazy people try to get on and do some stupid things. So they tried to manage that a little better. What I thought was pretty interesting about how the legislators actually operated during this session, I'm proud to say that our delegation was on the floor for most of the session and were there for the votes. They were there in the committee meetings and there for the votes. Some legislators were operating remotely from their offices there at the Capitol. Some of them were operating remotely from their homes. And some of them were operating remotely and didn't want to disclose where they were. They would just say they were off-site, which I found a little troubling. But anyway, there were 7 bills that got passed, amazingly. We saw the General Appropriations Bill, House Bill 1, which was called the sanding bill. And to let you all know that meant that it was just sanding off some of the things that had been passed during the general as far as expenditures. There's a big dependency on that appropriations bill from the CARES Act. There's a 1.5 or $6 billion that have been attributed to the state. The legislature is looking at approximately $750 million that will be able to help make up this deficit we're looking at. Be quite frank with you, I had a little concerns about that. Going to Santa Fe because I knew a lot of that money the way it had been designated was probably in a gray area about whether or not the state could use it for other things, so to speak. But I had a little more confidence after I listened to some of the testimony that was given that probably some of that money will be able to help make up part of this. We had a $7.5 billion budget back during the general, and they passed a little over $500 million in cuts. So the good news is that with that $7 billion budget is that Eddy County and the cities here didn't suffer. We didn't get anything really cut that we'll see. There are the bill's 40-something pages long. I apologize, I haven't been able to digest all of it because there's a lot of amendments, and then they would cut it out, and then we admit it back with the same thing, and so it's kind of got my head spinning. But at the same time, they had the solvency bill, which was Senate Bill 5, that was passed, and that one was an interesting bill because it voided a lot of the general fund appropriations for certain projects. Of course, nothing in Eddy County, but some of these things that are being appropriated to be used in the last several years, I can tell you, and I told you in your text, and I've told them, a lot of folks in person, one of the things we have to be very careful about, and we being a county and the cities, is to make sure that anything that we have in our budget that's been budgeted through general fund monies, that we have some type of encumbrance done on those projects. And I think we're in really good shape as far as the county goes. And I think most folks are in good shape. Because I can guarantee you, and they said this over and over, that in January, come the 60-day session, anything that hasn't been encumbered in a portion or completely, it will be cut. It'll be cut out of the budget. So they're looking at anything they can to cut out of that. So I think we've done a really good job from what I've talked to with our folks here at the county of doing that. So I don't really have much concerns about it. But the other bills, we had a Civil Rights Commission bill that was passed, unfunded mandate there based on what we understand in the bill. Has said that it's probably going to take around $400,000 to administer this committee. It got passed, temporary tax waivers, Small Business Recovery Act, and one of the things that the clerk was really concerned about, and we can talk about a little bit, were the temporary election changes. That was a terrible bill, terrible bill. Fortunately, after a lot of deliberation and a lot of amendments, a big portion of the terrible part was cut out. But there's still some challenges I know that the clerk's going to have with this, with implementing this new bill. But devil's in the details, as all these things are. One of the things that the sheriff has expounded on, and I already thanked him for his kind words, and Commissioner Henry, is the body camera. I followed all the hearings in the committees on the body cameras. I followed all the deliberation on the floor, both floors, Senate and the House. And as an old law dog, and most of you don't know, but 20 years ago I wore a badge and gun. It made me sick to my stomach. It really did, because there's so many gaping holes there, and to hear people who were actually qualified, that like Representative Ream and others, that stood up and gave testimony and really presented the facts in a humble way, even to the point of submitting a floor substitute for that bill, were totally ignored. And Representative Cadena, who everybody affectionately referred to, the lady in the white dress ponytail a while ago, from Doñana County, I'm a little bit of a political junkie, but she had an agenda, and she did what she was told to do. And she presented that bill in a way that this is the way it is. And so we do have a lot of challenges. I'm going to reiterate a little bit what the sheriff has. We do have a lot of challenges in our law enforcement community of how we're going to actually form these so-called policies and adhere to that. I told the sheriff a minute ago at the break, I said there would be something to do, I feel like might be in something to consider, is that our cities and our counties would actually write a letter to the governor expressing displeasure with this bill and asking her not to sign it. I don't know if she signed it this morning or not, but at the same time, it might not hurt to go on record to do that, just as a standing. Going to leave it at that, okay? A big challenge with that, of course, we know, is the storage of that and of the data. It was estimated that it could be $5,000 per year on the cameras, and the cameras are somewhere around $800 a piece. That was a conservative number that was thrown out. So, tried to stay short and sweet. Any questions?
Commissioner Crockett, Commissioner McCutcheon. No, sir, thank you for your time.
Okay, we're going to be challenged.
I don't have any, thank you, Jerry.
Commissioner Henry?
All set, thanks.
Going to be challenged in January. Just want to set everybody up for that. It's going to be a challenging session. There's no money, and there's going to be a lot of people trying to spend money we don't have again, and so I think that's something we all have to prepare ourselves for. And I want to say I'm proud to work for a county that has been very good stewards of our money.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Good job.
Okay, legislators and elected officials. Comments? Okay, moving on. County manager comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd probably just defer at this point. There's been a lot on the agenda. I thank you for your consideration. There were a lot of positive things in this year-end element here that are good for the county, good projects, a lot of positive effort by county staff across all fronts. We're a very diverse group. We provide a huge array of services to our county customers, and I'd like to thank them. We've got some austere times in front of us, but I think with the elements that we've got in place, we'll do well. We'll continue our stewardship of those efforts. So thank you as a commission for your support and consideration of the things that come before you. You continue to make the county better, so thank you very much.
Commissioner Crockett? We have,
I think there's been a lot said today, so I'm not going to talk any about the special session, as crazy and hurtful as that was. Al and I, our meetings have ramped up a lot. We're back to having our healthcare meetings and some of our regular weekly meetings that we've had. We had a really good meeting, and Mr. Chairman was at that meeting with the legislators prior to the session, and we're very fortunate because we had all of our legislators there, including Senator Griggs, so it was nice. I'm hoping that maybe we can have a follow-up meeting with them at some point over the next couple of weeks. But anyway, Jason's not in here, but I forgot to mention that I appreciate his work on, I call it Dead Cow Road, but Refinery Road. I had been getting a lot of complaints, like 3-4 a day, from WHIP employees as well as Mosaic employees, so I appreciate that, and I started forwarding those on to the county manager, so I think he was getting a little frustrated with those as well.
I'm a lucky boy.
But I do appreciate it, and it's nice because all of those people have said thank you for the work we've done. So.
okay, Commissioner McCutcheon.
Just a couple of things. I don't know how the sheriff is fully staffed with the current police climate, but I must say something about the department. So, great job there. And I would think if Brian was short people, he would probably be able to get them from the sheriff's office, just because the police climate is so. I don't know who would want to go into law enforcement right now, honestly, and I want the sheriff to know that I 100% support law enforcement, and I think I can speak for the whole commission on that we're 100% behind law enforcement. We're not going to defund the police in Eddy County. A couple other little things. We talked a little bit about the bypass, and then these signs for the county we've been working on. Commissioner Carlson, Chairman Carlson reminded me at the beginning when we talked about lodger's tax money, we had talked about those signs for Eddy County, and there's some really good proofs going around. I think Jason has emailed me a couple of those proofs. They look really good. I'd like to use a little bit of that money to see if we could promote Eddy County and have the good signs coming into Eddy County. Also, I went to a horse sale over the weekend in Levelland, and it was moved originally to Levelland because of the governor's mandates and things like that. The horse sale is typically in Clovis, held multiple times a year. It's now been permanently moved to Levelland. I don't know what the horse sale has for, I don't know what the horse sale generates in revenue for the city of Clovis, but there's probably 2,500 people in hotel rooms, and they sold 260 horses at probably an average of $7,000 or $8,000 a piece. I would imagine some horses for $50,000, $40,000. Huge amount of revenue lost to the state of New Mexico and moved to Texas. The facility was really nice. People were great over there in Levelland, and so the sales made that permanent now. And I think that's just one example of multiple businesses that are leaving and just going right across the state line. So that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Woods.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Henry.
No, I don't really have anything else to add. I just want to thank the governor for shutting down all GRT and then giving us unfunded mandates. It's really appreciated. We'll find the money, so.
Well, kind of like Commissioner McCutcheon, we want the sheriff to know that this commission stands behind him 100%. We always have and we always will. And I think there's a lot of things going on in the state that none of us agree with, and it's kind of a sad state of affairs. I was talking to one of the commissioners over in Lee County last night, Rebecca Long, and she said that one of the threats that's coming down is that if the county governments, the county commissioners don't do exactly what she wants, that she could try to remove them from office, and I don't see how that's a possibility. And I told her, I said, well, she needs to get after it then, because, you know, we're elected by the people, for the people, and what she says doesn't scare me one iota. So that's all I have to say. Anything else?
We have no executive session this time.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Hutchins,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
I was astounded that she would even suggest